This next lab is another sorting algorithm. This was a very different algorithm that we'd done before. So pay very close attention, especially how we treat the pivot item. So I like to sort a set of playing cards from the smallest on the left to the largest on the right. So I'm going to pick a pivot value, which is the element in the middle here. I'm going to find everything that's larger than the pivot element on the left, and I'm going to swap it with the things that are smaller than the pivot element on the right. So this one's smaller, so it's in the right, but this one's larger, so I might have to swap it. And this one is smaller, so I'm going to swap the queen and the 9. Okay, keep going for the next element, jump over this guy to that's bigger, and then I'm going to go from here, I'm going to look for the first one that's smaller, or I'm going to run into the same element I had before. Now notice how the 10 and ace are in the correct order, therefore I'm going to swap my old pivot with the one to the left of where these guys met. So I'm going to swap them here. And now my 10 is in this known position, and everything that's smaller than 10 is on the left, everything larger than 10 is on the right. So now I can take this part and set it aside for a minute here and just worry about this little bit. Now, here's my new pivot element, 4, and I'm looking for the element that's bigger than 4, which is 9, and then I'm looking for the element smaller than 4, which is 3, so I'm going to swap these two. Now I look for the next element that's bigger than 4, which is 9. I move up for the element that's smaller than 4 until I reach the element that I was my other pointer, which is 9. So now I have my pivot and the intersection of the two, which is the 9, where these two meet. Now since they're in order, I'm going to swap this guy one to the left of where they met, which is the position it's already in. So now everything to the left of 4 is smaller than 4. Everything to the right of 4 is greater than 4. So now these are in my correct order. So I'm going to go back to my set I had before, and now I have to solve for this side. So I'm going to pick an element here, this king, and I'm going to say everything that is greater than king, which is ace, and less than king, which is queen. I will swap them. Okay, get back there, swap them, there we go. Now I look for the next element, which is greater than the king, which is the ace. And then since that's the spot I was already at, I'm done. Let's take a look at the king and the ace. Since they're in the correct order, then I'm going to swap my pivot element, which one's to the left of where they met, which is the ace, which is itself. Now I'm done. Okay, so I just sorted these, and this was my old pivot, and I sorted these, right? So now I have this side right here to sort. So I'm going to pick the pivot element, which is 2. I'm going to find the first element, which is greater than 2, which is 3, and then move them from this way to first element less than 2, or the pivot element, which is 3. Now, since they're in sorted order, I'm going to swap this guy with the one to the left of where they met, and this in sorted order. And then I am done. Now it's in a sorted order. Okay, let's do the segregation sort. Now, we're going to pick a pivot element, 52 here. And we want everything smaller than 52 on the left side and larger than 52 on the right side. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to find the first element that is not less than 52, that's 79, and the first element that's smaller than 52, 19, and I'm going to swap them. Okay, now I'm going to move this guy until I find the next element that's larger than 52, which is 92. The next element is smaller, 49, and I will swap them. Now the next one, and I'll swap them. Okay, now this one is not greater than 52, so I'm going to keep going until I find here, and I was here. I'm going to keep going until I either hit the elements moving from left to right, or I find an element smaller, and then that's where they meet. Now I have to decide what to do here. I have my pivot element, which is 52. I have where they meet, which is 85. Now, since 52 is less than 85, then I want to put this one to the left of 85. So that means I'm going to put this here, and that's my pivot element, okay? Which means this one is sorted. This spot is known. Everything to the right should be greater than 52. Everything to the left should be less than 52, and it is. Now I'm going to go through this part of the list, and I'm going to pick a pivot element, 49, which is a particularly bad one because this happens to be the largest element, but it'll still work. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to find the first element that is greater than 49, and until I get to the end of the sublist. Then I'll find then I'll start from the right side and move over until I hit the up arrow, and then I hit this location. Notice how they are out of order, and since they're out of order, I swap them exactly, and that's the pivot element. So this still remains to be sorted. Now we're going to go over here and do this one. Oh, another really bad pivot element. I did it again. So I'm going to find the first element that is greater than 99. And then from here, I'm going to find the first element that's less than, or I hit the element. Since they are in out of order, then I will swap them. And that is my pivot element. Okay, so this sublist needs to be sorted still. So I'll go over here, and I'll pick an element, this one, 26. Find the first element that's greater, which is right here. Find the first element which is less, which is right here. We're going to swap them. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep going until I find one. Oop, I hit the pivot element here. Are they in order? They are in order. Therefore, I don't swap them, but I swap the one next to it. And that one is in place. Okay. So now I still have to sort this bit. I have to sort this bit, and I have to sort this bit. So let's do this guy right here. Find the first element that is greater than the 73. Find the first element that's less than 73. I will swap them. Okay. Find the next element that's greater. Find the next element that's less than. And since my up and down arrow hit each other, then I have to take a look at these two. This was the, since they're out of order, then I will swap them. And that one's done. So now I have 4 sublists that yet to be sorted. So let's take a look at this guy right here. We'll pick this one, which is a particularly bad one because I happen to be the largest, but that's okay. So we'll find the first one that's larger. I go all the way to the end. There's none of them. I can find the first one that's smaller. That is this one. Since they're out of order, I will swap them, move it up. Okay. Now this guy, since we have one element sublist, it's automatically sorted. We have one element sublist, it's automatically sorted. Let's take a look at this one right here. That's the middle element. Which one I choose doesn't really matter as long as I'm consistent about it. Okay, the first element that is greater than 89, the first element that's less than 89, so I will swap them. Okay, find the next element that's greater, and I will go all the way to the end. Now, these two are in order, therefore I swap this to the one next to it, and that one is finished. Okay, let's do another pass. Okay, this is the middle element here. I find the first element that is greater than 9, which is here. First element is less than 9 or equal to my up arrow, which is right here. Since they're in order, then I swap it with the spot one to the right, which happens to be myself. Therefore, it's done. And these two need to be sorted still. Take a look at these guys right here. This is the middle element here. I'm going to find the first element that's greater than 85. But since I got to the end of the list, I'll stop there. Now, this is both the up and down arrow. Okay, since they're out of order, I simply swap them and call this one done. Okay, now I have a sublist of size 1, it's finished. 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 And now we can see my list is sorted. Okay, one final example. I want to sort these collection of names. So first I'm going to pick a pivot item, which is fly. Now I'm going to start from the left and find the first element, which is not less than fly, which it turns out is yak. Then I'm going to start on the right and find the first element that is not greater than fly, which is ant. And then I'm going to say, look, these two need to be swapped. Okay. Now I'm going to take the left pointer and I'm going to keep advancing it to the right until I find the next item that is greater than fly, which is ray. And then I'll take the right pointer and advance it to the left until I find the first item that is not greater than fly, which is bat. And I'm going to swap them, and then ram and bee and swap them, and then gnu and eel and swap them, and then owl and cat and swap them. Now at this point, I'm going to take my left pointer and I'm going to keep going to the right till I find the first item that is bigger than fly, and that's going to be owl. So now my left pointer and my right pointer are on the same element. They've met, and that's when I stop my loop. Okay, so I take this guy where they meet, owl, and I compare it against fly. Now, if they're in sorted order, which they are, then the pivot element, the one that's circled, is going to be one to the left of where they meet, which happens to be where it is right now. If they're in out of order, then I'll just swap them. But since they are in order, then I want the pivot element to be one to the left of where it is, which means now fly is in its known position. Everything to the left of it is going to be smaller than fly. Everything to the right of it is going to be greater than fly, but fly itself is in its known position. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at the left sublist, and I'm going to forget about the rest for a while here. I'm going to pick a pivot here, which is elk, and then I'm going to find the first element, which is greater than elk. And I'm going to go from left all the way to cat because I'm going to go to the end of the list and I can't go beyond the list here. And then I'm stuck there. And I take the right guy, and it's going to go. The right point is going to go all the way to the left until it finds the first element that is less than or equal to elk, and it turns out that's cat as well. So now we have cat and elk. Now notice how elk and cat are not in sorted order because cat sorts before elk, which means I just swap these two and put that pivot in that location. So now elk's position is known, and everything to the left of it is smaller. So now I have two guys where we know where their positions are. So do the same thing for the right list here. So now I'm going to take a look at fox, which is my middle element here, and that's my pivot. And then I'm going to find the first element, which is greater than fox, which is owl. And then from the right, I'm going to go from right to left, and I'm going to look for the first element, which is less than fox. It's not yak, it's not ray, it's not rat. It's going to go all the way until it hits owl. So now my left and right pointer meet at owl. Now, since owl and fox are in opposite order, they're in incorrect order, I'm going to swap them and move the pivot over there. And now fox's position is known. Okay, so now I know three positions here, elk, fly, and fox. Turns out fly was a really good pivot because it was able to be right in the middle, but elk and fox were pretty much the worst case scenarios. When our pivot is the biggest or the smallest element, then we're not going to decrease the size of our sublist by much. It's the worst case scenario. Okay, so now I have two sublists I still need to sort, ant through elk and GNU through yak. So we're going to start with the ant through elk, or eel, I guess. And from here, I'm going to pick the pivot item, which is B, and I'm going to say, hey, is anyone from left to right, is anyone bigger than B? And I'm going to stop at cat. And then I'm going to say, from eel, I'm going to go to the left. I'm going to find the first element, which is less than B, or until I find the up arrow, and they're both going to meet at cat. Now notice B and cat are in the correct order, so therefore I'm not going to swap them, but instead I'm going to swap the pivot element that is one to the left of where they meet, which is cat. So B is going to swap with B. In other words, B's position is known. Now, I'm going to do the same thing on the right side here. I'm going to pick a pivot element, which is pig, and I'm going to go from left to right, find the first element, which is bigger than pig, which is going to be ram. And then I'm going to go from right to left and find the first element, which is less than pig, or hit my element here. So now I'm going to hit it ram as well. So my left and right arrow are both pointed to ram. So since they are in correct order, that means pig is going to swap with one element to the left of where they meet, which is ram. But since pig is already there, then that's just a known position. Okay, so now I went from one big sublist to two sublists to four sublists. So clearly I have more work to do. So we're going to take a look at ant, ape, and bat. Now, my middle element here is ape. And so I'm going to take my left pivot, sorry, my left index. I'm going to go from ant all the way up to bat. It's going to stop there. And then from the right, it's going to go up until it hits the arrow, which is right there. And ape and bat are in the correct order. Therefore, ape is going to go one to the left of bat, which is where it's already at. So now that position is known. Now we have cat, cow, dog, and eel. Let's see here, that's cow is the middle one here. Once again, I'm going to take my left one from left to right until I find the first element. This is bigger than cow, which is dog. And my right pivot's going to go from right to left until it finds the first element, which is smaller than cow, or it hits the up pivot. It's going to, the up arrow, it's going to be a dog as well. Cat and dog or cow and dog are both in the correct location. Therefore, cow is going to swap with one element to the left of dog, which happens to be where it currently is. So that position is known. Okay, GNU, J, man, and owl. Same thing we had before. J is my middle element, my pivot element here. So I'm going to move up to man. From owl to man, I'm going to hit the element. I'm going to hit the same index there. J and man are in correct order. Therefore, J is going to swap with one element to the left of man, which happens to be where it is. So it's a known position. Ram, rat, ray, and yak. Rat's my middle element here. Ray is the place where they both meet. They're in the correct order as well. So I'm just going to move that. Okay, now I need to emphasize when we do this sort, we're not actually duplicating the list from here to here. These are just various iterations. This is an in-place sort. We are not duplicating the list at all. We're simply swapping elements. Okay, so now Let's take a look at the leftmost one that's not sorted, which is ant. And then whenever I have a sublist of size 1, it's automatically in its correct position. Bat is sublist of size 1, it's in its position. Cat sublist of size 1 is in its own position. Dog and eel, got to find a pivot. Well, I'm going to say dog here, and then both the indexes are going to meet at eel. Turns out that they're in correct order, so therefore dog is going to swap with one element to the left of eel, which happens to be where it is, so therefore dog is in its correct position, and eel is still unknown. GNU, one element list, it's known. Man and owl, once again, it's known. Ram, one element list, it's known. Ray and yak, once again, that's my pivot is Ray. Since they're incorrect, they're going to meet at yak. Therefore, since they're in the correct order, Ray is going to swap with one element to the left of yak, which is itself. Okay, one final iteration here. Who do we have left? We have eel, which is one element list, it's sorted. Owl, one element list is sorted. And yak, one element list, it's sorted. Okay, so now we can see how the size of our sublists decrease as we move, but every iteration, the pivot is going to make sure that everything to the left of it is smaller, everything to the right of it is bigger. That's the segregation sort.